From California's wildfires, Hawaii's deadly infernos, and the rising tides of climate change, each one of these catastrophic events is a brutal reminder that our planet is changing fast. In the blink of an eye, entire cities are wiped out, lives are lost, and the environment is irrevocably altered. And yet, the aftermath of each disaster, something strange begins to happen. The charred earth and flooded streets are quickly replaced with plans for something futuristic, something smart. High-tech, ultra-efficient, and hyper-connected urban spaces are being envisioned as the solution to our problems. These are the smart cities, sprawling metropolises where technology dictates every part of our daily lives, from transportation to energy use, from how we interact with our environment to how we monitor our very movements, all powered by vast networks. But this vision of the future is not without its darker side. What if these high-tech utopias aren't just about innovation? What if buried beneath the glossy surface of these futuristic cities, there's a far more troubling agenda at play? What if these natural disasters aren't simply random events, the tragic result of climate change or natural cycles? What if instead they are being orchestrated or at the very least manipulated to pave the way for something much more calculated? An urban transformation that serves the interests of the powerful. A transformation where smart cities rise from the ashes of devastation, promising salvation, but potentially turning the world into a highly controlled, data-driven society. Today, we'll be deep diving into the controversial world of smart cities, exploring their potential and uncovering the conspiracy theories that have emerged around them. Is the rise of this futuristic city really about addressing urban problems like climate change, inefficiency, and overcrowding? Or are they part of a grand design to reshape society, control our behaviors, and enrich the corporations and governments behind them? From the wildfires that devastated California's paradise to the aftermath of Hawaii's 2023 fires, we'll look at how natural disasters are often followed by ambitious plans for rebuilding, and how these plans are increasingly linked to smart city technologies. Could it be that these disasters, rather than being random acts of nature, are being used as a catalyst of sorts for large-scale urban developments, where technology becomes the tool for social control? And if so, who stands to gain from this rebirth of cities? What happened to the people who lived there in these areas before the fires, floods, and storms came? And what role do major corporations play in shaping these new cities? I'll be the first to say it's a complicated web, one that combines technological progress, political power, corporate interests, and the very real human cost of disaster. We'll look at how smart cities promise to offer everything from more efficient energy use and greener spaces to less traffic and fewer crime. But we'll also look at what cost. As we peel back the layers of this vision of the future, we'll see how these innovations could end up serving only the interests of the elite, creating cities that cater to the wealthy and powerful, while leaving vulnerable populations behind. So, before we dive into the conspiracy theories and what really is happening in these post-disaster urban transformations, let's take a step back. What exactly is a smart city? We hear the term all the time, but what does it mean? And how is it already shaping the cities we live in today? And, most importantly, what's the connection between smart cities and these increasingly frequent natural disasters? Imagine a city where every street is monitored by sensors, where autonomous vehicles shuttle you from place to place, where waste is automatically stored and recycled, where energy consumption is optimized, and where every action you take, from the way you travel to what you consume, is tracked and analyzed in real time. This isn't some far-off dream, it's already happening. Cities like Singapore, New York, and San Francisco are already testing out these smart technologies. In many ways, smart cities promise to revolutionize urban life as we know it, bringing efficiencies that reduce waste, save energy, and improve our quality of life. And here's where the story gets kind of dark. You see, while smart cities are often sold as a way to improve our lives, there's a growing fear that these technologies could end up benefiting only a select few: large corporations, government agencies, and the tech giants behind them. From surveillance to gentrification, these smart technologies could control more than just our traffic or our energy use. They could control our very freedom. And the way these cities are being pushed forward often follows a familiar pattern. A disaster strikes, people suffer, and the rubble, well, there's an opportunity to reshape the world in the image of those with the resources to do so. This isn't just speculation or dystopian fiction. We've seen this happen before. After Hurricane Katrina decimated New Orleans, for example, the city was rebuilt, but not as it was before. It was rebuilt with an emphasis on high-tech, energy-efficient infrastructures, and the same happened in New York after 9/11, when Lower Manhattan was transformed with high-tech buildings, surveillance systems, and eco-friendly design. And in California, after the wildfires that devastated areas like the Palisades, the conversations quickly turned to rebuilding, not just homes, but entire cities, integrating technology into every corner of urban life. But are these rebuilding efforts truly for the benefit of the displaced residents, or are they a way for corporations to capitalize on the disaster, pushing forward agendas that favor the wealthy while displacing those who need the help the most? So, why does this matter? What's the real danger of smart cities? And why do conspiracy theories around them persist? As we dig deeper, we'll explore the key players in this game, from government agencies, global corporations, and private developers, all of whom have a vested interest in the rise of these smart metropolises, and we'll take a hard look at the theories that claim these disasters. Far from being random, many may be part of a large orchestrated effort to reshape urban life. Whether it's wild theories about secret government experiments or more grounded fear of corporate surveillance and control, the implications of this shift are profound. So stay with us while we take you through this complicated, controversial, and thought-provoking journey. We'll look at the rise of smart cities, the conspiracy theories surrounding them, the powerful forces driving them, and the very real consequences they have for the people living in the areas where these technologies are being tested. We'll separate fact from fiction and explore what this all means for the future of urban living. A smart city might sound like something straight out of a futuristic sci-fi movie, a place where everything is seamlessly interconnected and powered by cutting-edge technology. But what exactly does it look like in the real world? A smart city refers to urban areas that leverage digital technologies to manage resources efficiently, enhance quality of life, and improve sustainability. In practice, smart cities are used as sensors, data collection, and automated systems to optimize everything from energy consumption to transportation systems, water supply, waste management, and even the flow of people. It's about using technology to make the city smarter, but there's a lot more at play here than meets the eye. The idea behind smart cities isn't just to enhance the living conditions of urban environments. It's about creating cities that can think and adapt in real time. A smart city aims to use technology to connect various elements of urban infrastructure, ensuring they work together seamlessly. Imagine a city where your car knows when to change lanes based on traffic data, your refrigerator orders groceries for you when supplies run low, and the streets light up to guide you safely home, all without you having to do a thing. In places like Singapore, this vision is already becoming a reality. The city-state has developed an extensive network of sensors embedded in roads, buildings, and public spaces to monitor everything, from air quality to traffic congestion. Smart traffic lights adjust to real-time traffic patterns, ensuring traffic flows as smoothly as possible. Singapore is also home to some of the world's most advanced autonomous vehicle trials, with self-driving buses and taxis already in use. Singapore isn't alone in this race. In New York City, the Link NYC initiative is replacing outdated payphones with digital kiosks that offer free Wi-Fi, touchscreens with interactive maps, and access to city services. In San Francisco, smart garbage bins send real-time alerts to waste management teams when they're full, optimizing trash collection and minimizing unnecessary pickups. As we see across the globe, these innovations are helping cities reduce waste, lower costs, and provide better services for residents. On the surface, these benefits seem undeniable: fewer traffic jams, cleaner streets, and a healthier environment. But as we dig deeper, a troubling question begins to emerge. While these technologies improve efficiency and convenience, who's actually benefiting from them? And what happens when every aspect of the city is driven by data? Who controls this data? And how is it used? Smart cities come with an inherent risk of privacy loss and corporate influence over our daily lives. From facial recognition cameras to real-time surveillance of citizen activity, these systems are often justified as necessary to improve security and public services. But they also raise concerns about a surveillance state. When cities are smart, they are not only optimizing resources, they are monitoring and analyzing the behavior of every individual within them. Smart meters track your energy consumption patterns, public cameras monitor your movements, your smartphone even provides a constant stream of data wherever you go, what you buy, and who you interact with. All this data, captured by countless sensors and algorithms, is worth billions to corporations, and it could be used to shape your behavior, influence your choices, and even market products to you at a level of precision we've never seen before. This brings us to a new urban concept that's rapidly gaining traction: the 5-minute city. The 5-minute city is an emerging urban design concept that places everything a person needs, as far as work, education, shopping, recreation, healthcare, within a 5-minute walk or bike ride from their home. The idea is to create a self-contained neighborhood where citizens don't have to rely on cars or long-term commutes to access essential services. Supporters of this model argue that it can create healthier, more sustainable cities by reducing population, promoting local businesses, and improving community interactions. On the surface, this sounds like a dream come true: an environment that minimizes congestion, promotes sustainability, and creates vibrant, connected communities. You would walk out of your apartment and everything you need is just around the corner. No more sitting in traffic, no more relying on fossil fuels, and no more spending hours commuting. Imagine the extra time you'd have in your day, the reduced stress of not fighting rush hour traffic, and the sense of community that would emerge from people living in close proximity to one another. What if there's a darker side to this vision? While the idea of a 5-minute city sounds ideal, it can also be interpreted as a way to corral people into tightly controlled, data-driven environments. In a 5-minute city, the limits of your personal space could be determined by algorithms rather than individual choice. The city would be designed to funnel people through designated pathways, limiting their freedom to explore beyond prescribed zones. In practice, a 5-minute city could become a perfect vehicle for control. As more and more aspects of city life become automated, tech companies, governments, and developers will have more and more power than ever before to shape where people live, work, and play. Imagine being a resident of a so-called smart neighborhood where the only places you can go are those the system deems appropriate for you. What if your access to certain areas of the city, whether for leisure, work, or even travel, were determined by a digital profile that tracks your spending habits, social interactions, and movement patterns? Globalists and corporate interests could view the 5-minute city as a way to reduce the chaos of urban sprawl and make cities more manageable and profitable by tightly controlling how people move and interact within them. This isn't just about making cities more efficient or sustainable, it's about creating an environment where individuals are more easily monitored, manipulated, and herded. In such a world, it's easy to imagine a scenario where access to resources, services, and even social freedom is contingent on your alignment with corporate or governmental agendas. Here's the most troubling part: the push for these tightly controlled environments could gain more traction as cities grapple with climate change, population growth, and economic instability. The rise in natural disasters, wildfires in California, hurricanes in New Orleans, and flooding in other major cities could be framed as reasons to implement more sustainable and efficient solutions. Governments and large corporations could seize upon these moments of crisis to fast-track the development of smart cities and 5-minute cities, all while citizens are too preoccupied with recovery to question the implications. Could natural disasters be used as an opportunity to reshape urban living, ushering in a future where every aspect of your life is dictated by technology and data? The idea of smart cities, where personal freedom becomes secondary to efficiency, raises questions about how much control the state and privacy companies will have over our lives. In these scenarios, the data collection and surveillance could be escalated, creating a system where even the smallest of decisions are influenced by algorithms. A place where you no longer make choices based on preferences, but based on what's deemed optimal for the city as a whole. And in this quest for optimization, how much autonomy are we willing to sacrifice? This is the future being painted by those pushing for smart cities and 5-minute cities. It's a future that promises a cleaner, more sustainable way of life, but at what cost? The more technology becomes embedded into our cities, the more questions arise about the balance between convenience, efficiency, and freedom. Could we end up living in cities where personal choice is replaced by optimization, data-driven existences controlled by an unforeseen force? It's crucial to consider whether smart cities, 5-minute cities, any city will provide a better future for all, or if they will become the ultimate tools of control, surveillance, and power. Smart cities are no longer a distant dream or a concept reserved for science fiction. Over the past decade, we've seen an explosive rise in these developments of high-tech urban environments, from major metropolitan centers to emerging markets across the globe. The push to build smart cities is happening right now, and it's growing at an unprecedented pace. According to a report by the International Data Corporation, IDC, global smart city investments reached over $135 billion annually by 2021, with cities around the world investing in digital technology design to improve everything from transportation to waste management to energy efficiency. But what's driving this massive shift, and who's behind it? Tech companies, urban planners, and governments are pushing for smart cities, not just as a response to urban problems, but as a new economic frontier. Global tech giants like IBM, Cisco, and Microsoft have become key players in shaping the future of these cities. These corporations are providing the backbone of the digital infrastructure, offering everything from cloud computing solutions to artificial intelligence systems that manage traffic, monitor air quality, and optimize energy usage. Meanwhile, companies like Tesla, Alphabet, Sidewalk Labs are exploring the future of transportation and public spaces, respectively, with an eye towards integrating automation and smart technology into every aspect of urban life. One of the driving forces behind the rise of smart cities is the global urbanization trend. By 2050, it is projected that nearly 70% of the world's population will live in urban areas, placing unprecedented pressure on infrastructure, resources, and the environment. With rapid growth of cities, leaders are looking for ways to address these challenges, and smart city solutions promise to do just that by leveraging technology to streamline resource management, improve transportation, and create more sustainable environments. In China, we see one of the most ambitious efforts to build smart cities. The Chinese government has embarked on a project to create multiple smart cities across the country, with the city of Hangzhou often cited as a model. In Hangzhou, the use of artificial intelligence, facial recognition, and data analytics has created an urban ecosystem that tracks everything from traffic flow to crime rates to even the behaviors of citizens. Cameras are positioned throughout the city, capturing real-time data that is fed into a centralized control system. This data helps authorities respond more efficiently to incidents, manage traffic congestion, and provide services in real time. The Chinese government's push for these cities goes beyond simply improving daily life. It's also about state control. With a focus on surveillance and data collection, the country has pioneered a social credit system. It rewards citizens for positive behavior and penalizes them for violations, creating a digital record of every citizen's actions. The implementation of smart city technology in places like Hangzhou has raised serious concerns about the balance between efficiency and personal freedom, as the government's influence extends into nearly every aspect of urban life. In the United States, cities like New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles have been actively pursuing smart city technologies as part of their broader efforts to create more efficient, sustainable environments. New York City, for example, has focused heavily on creating a data-driven city, using analytics to inform urban policy decisions, optimizing energy usage, and even enhancing public safety. Meanwhile, San Francisco has been experimenting with autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars, and drones to alleviate transportation issues, all while focusing on reducing the city's carbon footprint. In Los Angeles, LA's Smart Streetlight program is a groundbreaking initiative that uses sensors and cameras to gather data on everything from air quality to pedestrian traffic, which helps the city optimize its services. In Europe, cities like Amsterdam and Barcelona are leading the charge in interchangeable sustainability with smart city principles. Amsterdam has become one of the world's first fully connected smart cities, using sensors to monitor environmental factors like air and water quality, while its citizens are encouraged to track their energy consumption through interactive platforms. Similarly, Barcelona has used smart city technologies to address urban challenges like waste management, traffic congestion, and energy efficiency, turning the city into a showcase for green technologies. In Barcelona, for example, smart bins can automatically compact waste and alert municipal services when they need to be emptied, optimizing waste collection. Today, one of the most prominent smart city projects is going to be called NEOM project. This is going to be located in Saudi Arabia, which aims to create a $500 billion high-tech metropolis in the desert. The line will feature two parallel skyscrapers that extend across 170 kilometers, housing 9 million residents. The project is being marketed as a solution to traffic congestion, pollution, and inefficient city planning. With fully automated transportation, vertical farms, and AI-driven infrastructure, NEOM promises to revolutionize how cities are built, with a particular emphasis on environmental sustainability and efficiency. However, as ambitious as NEOM is, it's not without its critics. Many question the feasibility of such an enormous project, and concerns have been raised about the social and environmental impact on local communities. The project has already faced protest from environmental groups who argue at the idea that the creation of such a massive city in the desert could lead to significant ecological disruption. Furthermore, the push to develop a smart city in a remote desert raises questions about labor rights. As Saudi Arabia labor market relies heavily on migrant workers, many of whom are subject to questionable working conditions. Back in the Western world, the United Kingdom has also joined the race to build smart cities, with London launching its own smart infrastructure projects, from digital bus stops that provide real-time passenger information to sensors embedded in the roads to help manage traffic flow. London has begun laying the groundwork for a future where data and automation drive urban management. The city is also focusing on implementing 5G connectivity, which promises to improve the speed and efficiency of smart city technologies, enabling everything from autonomous vehicles to connected healthcare systems. Across the globe, we're seeing similar projects, all working towards the same goal: a future where technology governs urban life, promising a world of efficiency, sustainability, and convenience. However, as the rise of smart cities accelerates, the question remains: who will control these new urban landscapes, and what will it mean for citizens as far as freedom and privacy? One of the most controversial and unsettling conspiracy theories that has emerged in recent years is the idea that natural disasters like wildfires, hurricanes, and other catastrophes aren't just the result of environmental factors, but part of a larger, more sinister plan. This theory suggests that the government, along with powerful corporations, may use these disasters as an opportunity to clear land for the development of smart cities, cities designed with the help of cutting-edge technology, but ones that might come at the cost of personal freedom, privacy, and even lives. At the heart of these theories lies the concept of disaster capitalism. This term, popular popularized by Naomi Klein in her 2007 book, The Shock Doctrine, describes a situation where governments and corporations exploit the aftermath of crises, whether they be wars, economic disasters, or in this case, natural disasters, in order to push through policies and developments that may otherwise face resistance. Essentially, these theories argue that the destruction caused by natural events is used as a smokescreen to clear areas for gentrification, and the establishment of smart cities that benefit corporate interests and the wealthy. The most glaring example of this theory comes from California's wildfires. In recent years, the state has been ravaged by some of the most catastrophic fires in history. The 2018 Camp Fire in Northern California, which destroyed the town of Paradise, serves as a focal point for these suspicions, not to mention the 2025 fire that destroyed the Palisades. With entire communities wiped out, many survivors and conspiracy theorists began questioning why, in the aftermath, there was such a rapid push for high-tech, data-driven development projects. Could the fires have been the result of some larger, orchestrated effort to pave the way for the creation of new, more controlled urban spaces? Following the destruction of Paradise, high-profile figures and companies began promoting the idea of rebuilding the area with cutting-edge technology and smart city infrastructure. For example, PG&E, the utility company blamed for starting the fires, has long been involved in smart city development and is pushing for the expansion of smart grids that incorporate advanced technology to monitor and control energy usage. However, critics argue that these developments have a darker side: gentrification. As one local journalist put it, what happens after a disaster is not just about recovery, it's about a transformation of the landscape, a transformation that often pushes out the very people who live there. Those who subscribe to the theory of government destruction believe that the wildfires were, at least in part, used to drive people out of these areas. As a result, large corporations and tech companies can swoop in, rebuild, and establish a new urban order, one in which the lower-income residents, who are often the victims of these disasters, are displaced and replaced by more affluent newcomers. This is not just an isolated theory. In fact, similar suspicions arose after the 2005 Hurricane Katrina disaster in New Orleans. After Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, some residents and activists began to voice concerns that the destruction was being used as an opportunity to push through gentrification efforts under the guise of rebuilding. The push to redevelop New Orleans with modern, sustainable infrastructure was framed as a way to future-proof the city, but critics argue that it was a pretext for bringing in higher-income residents and pushing out the city's long-term, predominantly black population. Much like in California, the conversation after Katrina shifted from simply rebuilding homes to the creation of smart city infrastructures. New Orleans officials, working alongside international organizations like the Clinton Global Initiative, began discussing ways to incorporate cutting-edge technology to the recovery efforts. But rather than being seen as a solution to the city's problems, these smart city plans were viewed by many as a way to restructure the city in a way that would benefit large corporations and wealthy investors, often at the expense of the local community. One of the most vocal critics of the smart city plans post-Katrina was Dr. Robert Bullard, a professor at Texas Southern University and one of the country's foremost environmental justice experts. He argued that the so-called recovery after disasters like Katrina often benefited the wealthy and left behind the marginalized. What we saw in New Orleans was the dismantling of a black city, Bullard stated. What they call recovery was actually displacement. And it's not just natural disasters in the United States. Similar concerns have arisen in the aftermath of catastrophic events elsewhere in the world. such as the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. In the wake of the disaster, there was a push to rebuild the affected areas with high-tech infrastructure, leading some to question whether the disaster was being used to clear the way for new, more easily controlled urban spaces. More recently, in Maui, the devastating 2023 wildfires triggered a new wave of conspiracy theories. As the flames swept through the island, destroying communities and causing widespread devastation, some people began to suspect that the fires might have been intentionally started or manipulated. Why? To clear the land for a new era of smart city development. Theorists circulated about space lasers and secret government operations, while others pointed to the rapid push for redevelopment projects in the wake of the disaster. Could these fires have been orchestrated to create opportunities for large corporations to establish a new kind of controlled tech-powered community? Of course, there is no hard evidence to support the idea that these fires were deliberately caused by smart city development, but the suspicion remains. After all, in the aftermath of these disasters, we often see a similar path. Massive corporate interest pushing for redevelopment, often in the ways that disproportionately affect the local population. It's easy to see why some might start to connect the dots between these events and the rise of tech-driven urban spaces. So, is this just a baseless conspiracy, or is there something more to it? Could the destruction of communities and the subsequent push for smart city developments be part of a coordinated plan by powerful interests to reshape our cities and our lives? Let's dive deeper into the evidence and separate fact from fiction. Amid the devastation of some of the most catastrophic wildfires in recent history, particularly the 2023 fires in Hawaii and the ongoing infernos in California, a bizarre conspiracy theory has gained traction among certain groups. This theory suggests that the fires were not the result of natural causes, poor management, or climate change, but instead were caused by a highly advanced and secretive weapon system, space lasers. Yes, you heard that correctly. The idea that the government or shadow elites are using space-based lasers to deliberately start fires for nefarious purposes. The theory first started to gain widespread attention in the wake of the 2020 California wildfires, when some conspiracy theorists pointed to odd, unexplainable anomalies within the fires, including unusual burn patterns and seemingly selective targeting of certain areas. The theory quickly gained traction after prominent figures, most notably former Representative Ted Lieu, dismissed the claims of space lasers, but in doing so only seemed to encourage further speculation. Ted, in his tweets, clearly emphasized that there were no space lasers involved, but some saw his dismissal as part of a cover-up. Though the theory remained relatively fringe in the beginning, it found new life during the 2023 Maui wildfires in Hawaii, where conspiracy theorists began connecting dots that seemed to align with their suspicions. The fires, which left parts of the island destroyed and thousands displaced, seemed to serve as fertile ground for the idea of direct energy weapons, DEWs, being used to manipulate or control the environment. Many pointed to particular rapid-fire spreads of the flames, patterns of damage that didn't seem consistent with typical wildfire behavior, and even the relatively untouched areas that stood in stark contrast to the devastation around them. All of these anomalies sparked the flames of the space laser conspiracy. Some of the main proponents of the theory argued that the fires were being intentionally started by direct energy weapons fired from satellites or space-based platforms. These DEWs, they claim, are capable of generating intense heat that can start fires in specific areas, much like a magnifying glass focusing sunlight onto an object. They pointed to the rapid spread and precision of the wildfires, suggesting that a random fire wouldn't behave in such a calculated manner. Furthermore, the theory argues that corporate interests might be using these destructive fires to clear land for smart city development. Some theorists went even further, claiming that the space lasers were a tool of global elites, using disasters as a means to engineer geopolitical control. Theorists cited the potential for geoengineering, the idea that governments could manipulate weather patterns or natural disasters to control populations or create conditions that would allow for massive land reclamation. According to these theorists, the Hawaii wildfires were more than just a tragedy. They were an orchestrated event meant to lay the groundwork for the construction of high-tech corporate-controlled urban centers under the guise of disaster recovery. This idea, while seemingly outlandish to many, gained significant attention on social media platforms, and even within certain alternative news circles. The hashtag space lasers quickly trended, and prominent figures such as G. Edward Griffin, author of The Creature from Jerky Island, weighed in, contributing to the belief that such advanced weaponry could be deployed from space, perhaps as part of a larger globalist agenda. To understand where this theory comes from, we need to take a look at the technology involved. Direct energy weapons, DEWs, though still largely experimental, are real. They use concentrated energy, usually in the form of lasers, microwaves, or particle beams, to disable, damage, or destroy targets. DEWs have been tested by the military, including systems capable of intercepting missiles or disabling drones. However, the idea that these weapons could be used to start massive wildfires from space is a huge leap, and there is no credible evidence to support this theory. However, despite the lack of evidence, the theory has continued to evolve, often merging with other conspiracy narratives such as fears about government surveillance, geoengineering, and even secret military programs. These complex ideas form a web of suspicion that intertwines with broader anxieties about the loss of personal freedom and government control. The Maui wildfires, the California infernos, all this only seems to amplify these fears, with many arguing that the rapid push for rebuilding using high-tech smart city models was too conveniently timed. It's important to point out that official investigations into both the California and Hawaii fires have pointed to more mundane causes, like dry conditions, high winds, and human error. In California, Pacific Gas and Electric PG&E has faced multiple lawsuits due to their power lines sparking wildfires, while the cause of the Maui fires was attributed to climate change, drought conditions, and poor land management, similar to the Palisade fires. But for some, these explanations seem insufficient when juxtaposed against the scale of devastation and the timing of the reconstruction efforts. So, where does the space laser theory leave us? While it is clear that there is no direct evidence linking space lasers to these fires, the persistence of the conspiracies speaks to deeper fears: fear of the unknown, fear of corporate control, and fear of technological overreach. The theory taps into a larger narrative that many people feel is at play, a growing concern that technology, particularly technology pushed by large corporations and powerful governments, is being used to reshape society without the consent of the public. The space laser conspiracy, as wild as it sounds, serves as a symptom of a larger issue: trust. The public's growing mistrust of governments, corporations, and global elites has made it easier for these more extreme theories to find an audience. In a world where technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate and where the lines between public and private interests continue to blur, it's not hard to see why people would turn to such explanations. Even if space lasers aren't to blame for the wildfires, the fact remains that natural disasters, especially large-scale fires and storms, accelerate the push for smart city technologies. And while these technologies may offer solutions to problems like energy use and urban congestion, they also raise important questions about the control and surveillance of populations. As we've seen with the Great Reset and the push for 5G infrastructure, some see this as a part of a much larger centralized agenda to control people through data and technological innovation. So, whether or not the space lasers theory holds any merit, one thing is clear. The rise of smart cities, accelerated by disasters like the Hawaii and California fires, is part of an ongoing global trend, a trend that increasingly prioritizes efficiency, control, and data over privacy, freedom, and community autonomy. To understand the push for smart cities after natural disasters, we must first examine who benefits from these proposals. It's not just about the technology. Smart cities are deeply tied to the interests of corporations, government agencies, politicians, and real estate developers. These entities are often at the forefront, pushing for high tech, high profitability urban developments in areas ravaged by crises. But as we will see, these efforts come with hidden agendas, some involving substantial control over our daily lives. After every disaster, whether it's the wildfires in California, hurricanes in New Orleans, or the devastation in Hawaii, one common thread is the swift push to rebuild better. But the question arises, better for whom? Who stands to profit from these changes? Let's explore the key players involved in promoting smart cities in post-disaster settings. Politicians, especially those in positions of power in states prone to frequent natural disasters, are major promoters of the smart city agenda. They see the rebuilding process as an opportunity to modernize infrastructure and introduce new technologies that they claim will increase efficiency and sustainability. However, this focus on the future of urban development often masks political motives and relationships with private industry. So let's take Governor Gavin Newsom of California. For example, Newsom's high-speed rail initiative is a key component of California's effort to reshape urban development and transportation in the state. While this project has been promoted as a solution to California's traffic woes and environmental concerns, it also feeds directly into larger plans for smart city infrastructure. The promise of cutting-edge technologies such as autonomous vehicles, sustainable buildings, and data-driven urban planning is a central part of this narrative. But Newsom isn't the only political figure involved. After the 2005 Hurricane Katrina disaster, Louisiana's then governor, Kathleen Blanco, was a vocal advocate for rebuilding New Orleans as a modern, technologically advanced city. Many saw her support for smart city technologies, such as energy-efficient infrastructure and advanced transportation systems, as a natural response to a devastated city. However, critics argue that her support served to displace low-income residents and catered to wealthy developers who were eager to capitalize on the destruction. The eventual gentrification of New Orleans is often cited as an example of how disasters can serve as opportunities for urban renewal, most often benefiting corporations and politicians alike. Real estate developers are another major player when it comes to rebuilding after disasters. The destruction of neighborhoods due to wildfires, hurricanes, or other disasters often present an opportunity for redevelopment. As far as land and premium cost, especially in urban areas, real estate companies are quick to identify hotspots for new development, often making deals with local governments and investors to turn disaster zones into luxury developments and high-tech urban spaces. One example can be seen in California, where the aftermath of wildfires has led to efforts for rebuilding using smart city technologies. Areas that were once home to low-income communities are being eyed for gentrification. Large developers have begun constructing smart homes, energy-efficient buildings, and advanced transport networks. These developments often cater to wealthier populations, pushing out long-standing residents and contributing to rising property values and housing affordability crises. Similarly, in New York City, after the 9/11 attacks, real estate giants like Silverstein Properties capitalized on the destruction of the World Trade Center site, pushing for high-tech, energy-efficient buildings that promise to revolutionize the city. These high-rise developments and tech-centric projects continued the narrative of New York as a global hub for innovation, but they also displaced the very communities that once inhabited the lower Manhattan area. Smart city projects in these areas were largely seen as a way to revitalize the region, but at what cost to the original residents? Perhaps the most influential group behind the smart city movement are tech companies. These powerful entities, including Google, IBM, Cisco, and Amazon, have an extensive history of promoting smart city technologies after disasters. They market these technologies as solutions to urban challenges like traffic congestion, waste management, energy consumption, and even emergency response. But in doing so, these companies also position themselves as key players in the urban development landscape. One of the most notable examples is Alphabet, the parent company of Google. Alphabet's subsidiary, Sidewalk Labs, proposed a smart neighborhood in Toronto known as Quayside. This project aimed to create a high-tech urban community that incorporated sustainable infrastructure and data-driven decision-making. The idea was to use real-time data to create a more efficient and eco-friendly city. While the proposal was ambitious, it did face backlash from privacy advocates who feared that it would lead to a surveillance state, with Google controlling massive amounts of personal data. In San Francisco, Google and other tech companies were involved in efforts to develop smart neighborhoods after a series of disasters, including the 2017 and 2018 wildfires. The smart housing solutions pitched by these companies were framed as environmentally sustainable and efficient, but they also served as a means to gather data on individuals as far as their daily habits, raising concerns about personal freedom and privacy. As tech companies gain more power in shaping the infrastructure of cities, some argue that these companies could become the de facto rulers of urban spaces, dictating everything from energy use to the way people interact with their environment. In addition to domestic actors, international organizations have also been key promoters of smart cities in the aftermath of disasters. These entities, which include groups like the United Nations, the World Bank, and the Clinton Global Initiative, have long advocated for smart city solutions as part of their urbanization strategies. The United Nations has been particularly vocal about the role of smart cities in achieving sustainable development goals. The UN's new Urban Agenda, a framework for urban development, encourages the integration of smart technologies to create more inclusive, sustainable, and resilient cities. However, critics argue that these initiatives are often driven by corporate interests rather than the community welfare. The World Economic Forum, WEF, for example, has promoted the idea of global network of smart cities where data and technology are used to make cities more efficient, but also more controlled. While these international organizations frame smart cities as a solution to global challenges, they often ignore the fact that the public sector and corporations are both benefiting from this agenda. Critics argue that this represents a top-down, elitist approach to city planning, where private sector interests, particularly those of global tech giants, dictate the direction of urban development. From politicians seeking to improve their legacy to developers looking to profit off of land redevelopment, to tech companies pushing their innovations, it's clear that the rise of smart cities in post-disaster areas is being shaped by a web of powerful interests. These actors often present themselves and their plans as solutions to urban problems. But as we've seen, they also stand to reshape society in ways that might not always be in the best interest of the public. While smart cities promise a future of sustainable living, the reality is that these visions come with serious trade-offs: privacy concerns, corporate control, and increased surveillance. As natural disaster continues to strike, the push for these high-tech, high-controlled urban environments will only intensify. But who will truly benefit from this new world, and who will be left behind? Natural disasters have long been seen as pivotal moments in human history, events that shake entire societies, forcing nations to confront their vulnerabilities. But in recent years, these events have also become a breeding ground for conspiracy theories. The connection between disasters and the rise of smart cities has fueled a range of wild yet increasingly widespread speculations. Why do so many people believe that natural disasters could be orchestrated or manipulated to pave the way for high-tech, top-down urban control systems? To understand this, we need to examine a range of psychological and social factors, along with the underlying dynamic of power and control. When disaster strikes, there's often a psychological need for an explanation. Humans are wired to make sense of chaos, and in the face of uncontrollable events, we tend to seek patterns, even if those patterns are not based on evidence. This is called an apophenia effect, the tendency to perceive familiar patterns or connections in unrelated phenomena. In the case of natural disasters, this can manifest as the belief that such events are not mere accidents of nature, but rather intentional actions orchestrated by unforeseen forces. Disasters, whether they be wildfires, earthquakes, hurricanes, or floods, leave communities shaken and searching for answers. When these events are followed by high-tech development proposals or government calls for urban renewal, it's easy for many to connect the dots. Could these disasters have been engineered to create a need for rebuilding? Could the emergence of smart cities, with their promises of efficiency, surveillance, and control, be the result of deliberate actions aimed at shaping urban features? Psychologically, this creates fertile ground for conspiracy theories to grow. The idea that disasters are created or allowed to happen in order to implement a new order is a way for people to regain a sense of control in a world that feels increasingly chaotic. This is also a form of cognitive dissonance, where individuals hold on to conspiracy theories in order to make sense of a reality they find difficult to accept. In the cultural consciousness, smart cities and their ties to control are not just confined to the realms of politics and technology. They have also permeated popular culture. Movies and books have long depicted dystopian futures where cities are tightly controlled and citizens are monitored and manipulated. These stories have built a narrative framework that many subconsciously draw from when looking at the rise of smart cities. Films like Minority Report in 2002, where a future society uses surveillance to predict crimes, or The Matrix in 1999, which explores a world dominated by artificial intelligence and total control, reflect a growing concern about the erosion of personal freedoms under the guise of technological advancements. The images of controlled environments where every move is watched and every aspect of life is optimized by technology have been etched into our collective imagination. It's no wonder, then, that the rise of smart cities is so often associated with these nightmarish futures. In many of these films, disasters, whether real or manufactured, serve as the backdrop for total societal control. In The Hunger Games, the collapse of districts is followed by the rise of the capital, a technological advanced society that exerts absolute power over the people. In these stories, the narrative of rebuilding after devastation is tied to an agenda of control and surveillance, where smart cities or the equivalents become tools to monitor, manipulate, and pacify the population. For many, these stories aren't just entertainment, they're warning. Books, too, have shaped the public's perception of the relationships between technology, control, and disaster. George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, for example, are two of the most influential works that explore the dangers of totalitarianism, regimes powered by surveillance, technology, and manipulation. These works have left an undeniable mark on the way we view government control through technological means. In Orwell's 1984, the government's total surveillance over citizens is symbolized by the ubiquitous presence of Big Brother, an entity that is always watching, always knowing. In the context of smart cities, it's easy to draw parallels between Orwell's totalitarian society and the idea that cities governed by omnipresent surveillance, where every moment and transaction is tracked and personal data is gathered by authorities and corporations alike, could cause natural disasters. In this view, be the catalyst for instituting these Orwellian systems. One of the most compelling reasons behind the persistence of conspiracy theories is the history of government abuse of power, especially when it comes to the use of national intelligence and the manipulation of events for political or corporate gain. Time and time again, history has shown that governments and powerful corporations can and will manipulate crises, most often to achieve their desired goals, whether through outright disinformation, covert operations, or using a disaster as an excuse to push through controversial policies, the line between conspiracy and fact often blur. Take, for example, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, where the U.S. government used an alleged attack on its Navy vessels as a pretext for escalating military involvement in Vietnam, only for it later to be revealed that the incident had been manipulated to justify a war that benefited certain geopolitical and corporate interests. Similarly, the Iraq War was based on faulty intelligence, yet it led to the reconstruction of Iraq, opening doors for international companies to capitalize on the country's resources. The reality is that disasters, both natural and man-made, have often been exploited by powerful entities to further agendas of control, profit, and reconstruction. This has fostered cynicism in the public, especially in the wake of disasters. Over time, conspiracy theories about natural disasters being engineered to push for smart cities aren't easily dismissed. After all, the history of state and corporate malfeasance makes it harder to ignore the possibility that real conspiracies might actually exist. And when these events are followed by plans for technological upgrades and surveillance systems, it's easy for the average person to connect the dots. In the end, the link between natural disasters and smart cities and conspiracy theories is that most often, but not always, is it speaks to a psychological need on a deeper level, the need to understand and explain the chaotic events that disrupt our lives. Theories about government manipulation of crises to build high-tech urban controlled systems provides a narrative, a way to make sense of the increasingly complex, interconnected world that we live in. While many of these theories may sound outlandish, the abuse of power, historical precedents, and psychological tendencies make them difficult to fully dismiss. And in the digital age, where information is plentiful and trust in institutions is at an all-time low, it's no wonder that more and more people are beginning to question the true motives behind smart cities. With the rise of smart cities, mass surveillance systems, and increasing integration of technology into every facet of life, many have begun to question, could there be any truth to the idea that natural disasters or catastrophic events are being used as tools to create the very environments where smart cities can thrive? Are these claims mere conspiracy theories, or could there be a kernel of truth in the suspicions many people have raised over the years? Conspiracy theories are born from a fundamental distrust of the status quo. The premise is simple: those in powers may not be as transparent as they claim, and sometimes events can be manipulated for the advantage of the elite. But what happens when a conspiracy theory begins to look more like a potential truth than a baseless claim? Conspiracy theories about smart cities and natural disasters fall into this category of skepticism. The idea that seemingly random events may not be as random as they appear. But are these theories just based on fear, suspicion, and misinterpretation of facts? Or do they have real merit? History has shown us that conspiracies can sometimes be rooted in truth, and events that seemed fantastical or impossible have, over time, been uncovered as real conspiracies. For example, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which the U.S. government claimed was an unprovoked attack on American ships, was later revealed to have been exaggerated to justify the escalation of the Vietnam War. Similarly, the Iraq War was launched under the premise of weapons of mass destruction, only for the intelligence community to later admit that there was no such weapons. In both cases, these official narratives were later exposed as manipulations of information. These events serve as powerful reminders that the line between conspiracy and fact can be blurry. The exposure of government malfeasance often requires years of investigative reporting, whistleblowers, and public pressure. In this context, the theory that governments might orchestrate or exploit disasters to further their agendas, such as creating smart cities, doesn't seem entirely outlandish, especially given the history of government secrecy and exploitation. To examine whether these claims have any validity, it's important to look at real-world examples where natural disasters have indeed led to significant shifts in policy, urban planning, and even technological innovation. One such example is the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. In the years following the disaster, there were numerous plans for urban renewal that focused heavily on incorporating advanced technology into the city's infrastructure. Many saw this as an opportunity to rebuild smarter, with an emphasis on efficiency and safety. Fukushima, the site of the catastrophic nuclear disaster in Japan, is another example where the aftermath led to widespread changes in urban design and technology. The push for renewable energy and smart grids grew significantly after the event, with proponents suggesting that smart cities were the way forward to avoid future disasters. This example suggests that while the disasters themselves may not have been engineered, they created a moment of opportunity for technocratic reform. A growing body of evidence suggests that while smart cities may not be the result of natural disasters being intentionally caused, there are stakeholders, including major corporations and political figures, that see natural disasters as opportunities for technological advancements. Companies like Google's Sidewalk Labs, Cisco, and IBM are at the forefront of smart city development. They promote the idea that technological solutions can solve urban problems, from traffic congestion to climate change. In some cases, these companies have been highly innovative and involved in post-disaster recovery efforts, positioning themselves as the go-to solution for rebuilding urban centers. While their intentions may not necessarily be nefarious, the proximity between corporate interests and disaster recovery can certainly fuel the belief that smart cities are being ushered in under the guise of reconstruction. Another aspect of the validity of these claims lies in the role of governments. Governments have a history of exploiting crises, whether natural or manufactured, to push through political and economic agendas. The Patriot Act, for example, was passed in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, expanding government surveillance powers in the name of national security. Similarly, following natural disasters, government leaders often push for large-scale urban renewal projects that prioritize technological upgrades and surveillance infrastructure elements, characteristics of smart city models. Could governments see natural disasters as an opportunity to implement smart surveillance systems, data collection infrastructures, or centralized control measures under the banner of recovery and reconstruction? The theory suggests that unseen elites may use these moments to advance agendas under the guise of progression. While the claim that natural disasters are intentionally engineered may be speculative, the exploitation of crisis to advance control technologies is a real phenomenon. It's also crucial to recognize that conspiracy theories often gain traction because of the role of the media in sensationalizing the unknown. Many times, conspiracy theorists will place together unrelated events to form narratives that seem plausible, even if they are not supported by hard evidence. Social media especially plays a huge role in amplifying these theories, where clickbait headlines and fear-mongering capitalize on public anxiety. While the desire for explanations is natural, it's also important to approach conspiracy theories with a critical eye, separating fact from speculation. So, where does that leave us? Are these claims about natural disasters and smart cities valid, or are they just a product of wild speculation? The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle. It's undeniable that large-scale disasters often create the perfect opportunity for technological innovation and urban development, whether that's the development of smart cities or the creation of surveillance-heavy infrastructure. Yet, while we may never know if some natural disasters have been deliberately engineered, we can't ignore the undeniable patterns of corporate interest and government manipulation following major crises. As always, it's essential to examine these claims with a healthy dose of skepticism and to seek the truth by separating factual evidence from speculative narratives. But in the end, the question remains, is there any validity to these claims? While some elements of these theories may be based on real patterns of power, corporate influence, and technological advances, we must be cautious about jumping to conclusions. The truth, as always, may be far more complicated than it first appears. As the world continues to embrace the technological revolution, the concept of smart cities promises a future where technology and urban life merge seamlessly to create highly efficient, sustainable, and interconnected environments. These cities, powered by the Internet of Things, IoT, artificial intelligence, big data, and 5G networks, are designed to optimize everything from traffic flow to waste management. But as we look towards this rapidly approaching future, we must ask, will smart cities be a utopia of innovation and progress, or a dystopia where control and surveillance reign supreme? In the best case scenario, smart cities represents an opportunity to reinvent urban living. In a world of escalating population growth, climate change, and resource scarcity, the promises of smart cities lies in their potential to address the pressing issues of the 21st century. With sustainable urbanization, green technologies, and data-driven governance, these cities could provide a blueprint for how we live together in harmony with the planet. One of the most significant promises of smart cities is sustainability. By using smart grids, renewable energy, and sensor-driven solutions, cities can reduce their carbon footprint overall, minimizing waste, and make more efficient use of natural resources. For example, Songdo in South Korea, often hailed as one of the world's most advanced smart cities, has implemented a range of green technologies from automated waste collection systems that incinerate trash at the point of disposal to sensors that monitor air quality and energy usage. Similarly, in cities like Copenhagen, Barcelona, and Amsterdam, smart transportation networks have significantly reduced traffic congestion and pollution, while also promoting sustainable mobility. Electric cars, bicycles, and autonomous vehicles, all powered by data analytics, are creating a new era of transportation that prioritizes efficiency over the traditional gridlock that has plagued urban centers. Smart cities also promise a more inclusive and equitable future. With the use of data and AI, cities can develop tailored services that meet the needs of all residents, from affordable housing to better access to healthcare and education. Cities can improve public services, ensuring that everyone, regardless of income or background, benefit from the progress brought by technology. However, as with any new technology, there is a darker side to smart cities. While the vision of efficiency and sustainability is compelling, the very tools that enable this advancements, big data, surveillance, and AI, pose significant risks. In the worst case scenario, smart cities could become instruments of control, where every movement is tracked, every decision is predicted, and every citizen's behavior is analyzed for conformity. One of the greatest fears surrounding smart cities is the erosion of privacy. The vast amounts of data generated by sensors, cameras, and devices could be used not only to improve city services, but also to monitor every aspect of a citizen's life. The notion of a surveillance state is no longer just a dystopian fiction. It is becoming a real possibility. Cities like London have already seen the proliferation of surveillance cameras in public spaces, raising questions about how far the monitoring of daily life will go. Facial recognition technology, for instance, could be used to track individuals across a city. While proponents argue that this could increase security, critics warn that such technology could lead to mass surveillance and a loss of civil liberties. If data is misused or falls into the wrong hands, it could be exploited for social control or even political oppression. Moreover, the centralization of power within smart cities could result in a scenario where corporations, governments, or unelected technocrats have disproportionate control over the lives of individuals. This could lead to a future of inequality, where the most marginalized populations are further disenfranchised or pushed to the margins of society. In the best case scenario, smart cities could be a testament to human ingenuity. Rather than being tools of oppression, technology can be harnessed for social good, community empowerment, and inclusivity by focusing on creating equitable, green, and data-driven environments. Smart cities could become places where people are not just citizens, but active participants in the design and development of their urban spaces. Imagine a city where blockchain technology ensures that all personal data is secure, and the data generated by residents is owned by them, not corporations. Imagine artificial intelligence working alongside humans to make better decisions in urban planning, resource allocation, and even healthcare. Smart cities could revolutionize the way we live, work, and relate to one another, creating thriving, sustainable environments where innovation knows no bounds. In this ideal future, smart cities would not just be technologically advanced, they would be human centric, designed with the values of compassion, creativity, and community at their core. The integration of technology should enhance life, not replace it. The best case scenario would see people working together to build the cities of tomorrow, where technology is used to connect and not isolate. In the worst case scenario, however, smart cities could become a technocratic nightmare. Corporate giants and government entities may work together to centralize power, stripping individuals of their autonomy and privacy. In this world, people could become enslaved by their own technology, manipulated through algorithms and data analytics that determine everything from their behavior to their opportunities. Social credit systems where citizens are ranked based on their behavior are already being tested in some parts of the world, such as China, where personal scores impact a person's ability to travel, access services, and engage with society. In a similar fashion, smart cities could easily implement systems of control that penalize or reward citizens based on their compliance with social, political, or economic norms. The consequences of unchecked technological progress is a world where people live not as free individuals, but as subjects in a data-driven algorithmic society. In this scenario, the worst parts of the digital age, as far as surveillance, control, and discrimination, could be amplified to unimaginable scales, leading to a totalitarian future where human rights and freedoms are subordinate to the interests of powerful elites. The future of smart cities is not predetermined. It will be shaped by the choices we make today. Whether we allow technology to serve us or be used to control us will depend on the decisions we make about privacy, accountability, and ethics. As the world moves towards this new urban era, it's up to each of us to ensure that smart cities become places of opportunity, inclusion, and human flourishing, rather than prisons of surveillance and disempowerment. The promise is immense, but so too are the perils. The future of smart cities is in our hands, and only through vigilance, collaboration, and a commitment to ethical progress can we ensure that technology remains a tool for good, not a mechanism for oppression. The world we live in is on the precipice of unprecedented change. In the quest for technological innovation, our cities are transforming into smart cities, teeming with data, automation, and artificial intelligence. We stand at a crossroads. Will these advancements be a beacon of progress, or will they become the chains that bind us? As we peer into the future, we must look beyond the surface of sleek digital dashboards and seamless connectivity to ask some very uncomfortable questions. What do we stand to lose, and what do we stand to gain? In the words of genius and philosopher Albert Einstein, technological progress is like an axe in the hands of a pathological criminal. It is a stark reminder that progress can be as much a weapon as a tool, and yet the question remains, what is progress? The answer to that question depends on our willingness to guide the technology we create to ensure it serves the greater good rather than undermining the very fabric of our society. Smart cities, with their vast promise of efficiency, sustainability, and social equality, offer a tantalizing glimpse of the future. The potential for improved healthcare, education, and public services is real, and there's no denying the allure of a world where technology frees us from the mundane tasks of everyday life. Yet, as we have seen, there is another side, a side that reminds us of the warnings given by thinkers such as George Orwell and Aldous Huxley. Smart cities could easily slip into something less than utopian. Let us not pretend that the future of smart cities is free from corporate greed or political ambition. Power or profit have always driven forces of urbanization and technological innovation. In a world where multinational corporations hold immense sway and political elites wield their influence over the direction of global economies, it is easy to see how the technology of tomorrow can be misused for less than altruistic purposes. Corporate giants who push for smart cities are not merely interested in solving urban problems. They also see them as fertile grounds for expanding their power, profit, and surveillance capabilities. Consider big tech companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, all of whom have shown keen interest in the infrastructure of smart cities. While their interest in creating connected, efficient cities might be framed as a desire to improve the human experience, there are still real concerns about data ownership, privacy, and control. In fact, Zygmunt Bauman, a prominent sociologist, described the modern world as one where technology has become both the oppressor and the liberator, depending on who holds the keys to it. Moreover, the growing centralization of power within these cities could very well lead to a future where governance is driven less by democratic principles and more by technocratic elites with access to vast troves of personal data. As the late philosopher Jean Baudrillard argued, we live in a world where the real and the artificial have merged, and we are increasingly incapable of discerning the difference. Are we ready for a world where algorithms, not people, make decisions about our lives? I don't know about you guys, but I'm not too keen on the idea just yet. Now, let's entertain for a moment one of the more outlandish theories that have emerged in recent years: the idea that space lasers are being used to intentionally destroy cities to make way for the rise of smart cities. While scientific evidence to support such claims are scarce, it is hard to ignore that military-grade space lasers and direct energy weapons are real. In fact, Dr. Harold Puthoff, a respected scientist and former CIA consultant, has spoken about the development of such technologies, and it's possible that some classified projects are exploring them for defense purposes. While the notion that space lasers are being used in a grand conspiracy is not backed by mainstream evidence, we cannot ignore the corporate greed and political opportunism are real factors shaping the development of smart cities. Take, for example, Hurricane Katrina and the California wildfires, natural disasters that have been used as opportunities for real estate speculation, and the construction of new urban infrastructure. Even if these events weren't planned, it's not hard to imagine that future disasters could be leveraged to accelerate urban development, especially if those behind the scenes are motivated by profit. Our vision of the future has been shaped not only by philosophers and economists, but film and fiction. Movies like The Matrix and Blade Runner have long explored the darker side of technological advancements, worlds where humans are controlled by machines, where corporate power reigns supreme, and where our realities are increasingly mediated by artificial means. In Blade Runner, the question of what it means to be human is raised in a world where humans and machines are indistinguishable. Philip K. Dick, the author of the novel that inspired the film, once said, "It's not that I believe in conspiracy theories, it's that I believe in the incompetence of those in power." There's a haunting resonance in this quote, as it reminds us that corporations and misuse of power don't always require a grand conspiracy. They can also stem from individual ambitions and systematic flaws. Yet, even in the darkest of futures, there is hope. The human spirit, as Henry David Thoreau wrote in Walden, will always strive to seek simplicity and truth in a world of complexity. We are not bound to a future where we are mere subjects of technology. We can be its architects. The future of smart cities is not set in stone. It will be shaped by the choices we make today. While the rise of smart cities may offer a future of greater convenience and sustainability, we must remain vigilant, ensuring that our humanity does not get lost in the data streams. Aldous Huxley, in his work Brave New World, warned us of a future where we willingly surrendered our freedoms for the sake of comfort. I would say most would agree we should do everything in our power not to let that happen. The future is not something that happens to us, it's something that we create. We have the power to shape the world we want to live in. The rise of smart cities offer us endless possibilities, but we must navigate these possibilities with wisdom, foresight, and commitment to human values. We will rise to the challenge or we will be swept away in the tide of unchecked technological progress. One thing is certain, the future of smart cities is not just about technology, it's about us, our choices, our values, and the kind of world we want to build. As Wendell Berry wisely said, the earth is what we all have in common. And in the end, the question isn't just what kind of cities we will create, but what kind of people we will become. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the rise of smart cities and the potential conspiracy theories surrounding their development. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Are we heading towards a future of efficiency and sustainability, or are we unknowingly walking into a surveillance state? What about the theories of space lasers and the destruction of cities? Do you think there's any merit to those claims, or is it all just fear mongering? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on more thought-provoking content like this. I'll be responding to some of your comments, so let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and as always, stay biased.